Hello, I'm Rev Lower, founder and leader of the cult known as Only Flesh.
I can still see the roaches crawling on the floor and all over me. In a straight white vest, it's hard to open doors. Sedated, it's hard to tell them to stop.
I think I'd like to establish a beginning. You know, where you went to school, brothers and sisters, see if we can evolve from this and kind of just get a picture of who you were back in the good old days, as they say.
Well, I'm an only child, no brothers or sisters. I come from a smaller town, Marion, Ohio, and went to a school there, went as far as high school. Was raised by my grandparents, and as soon as I was old enough to get out, I moved to a bigger city compared to where I was at, which was Columbus.
And so we start with music, and then it ends up more into performance piece.
I grew up listening to metal bands like Alice Cooper, Ozzy, Wasp, all these bands that it wasn't just a show, you know, music. There was a lot of performance into it. There was a lot of theatrics, things like that. So from the beginning, ever since I had wanted to be in a band, I wanted to. That was one of the reasons I wanted to get into it, was for the aspect of the theatrics and the extras that you get to do. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a lot more fun to have a whole experience rather than just worry about one aspect, which is the music.
If I understand, there's piercing, a lot of the tattooing, the costuming, the everything. And then it goes into suspension.
As far as the body modification is concerned, when we started out, it was very, very crude. We did cuttings on stage, brandings and burnings, and some piercings and things like that on stage. After I had started Only Flesh, I had started to be a piercer, and I went through my apprenticeship. So once I was a piercer, we started doing things a lot cleaner, a lot more professional, and it evolved into the suspensions and the flesh pulls and the hooks. And as it got into that, things became a lot more complicated. So somewhat, it's like we do have a certain script we go by, because currently we have a suspension team, we have the band, and they all work together. So with all of the things that we're doing with the suspensions and the different body modification that we're doing on stage, it has to be scripted, or things could go horribly wrong and people could get hurt, or it's just a big cluster. And well, everybody that's on our suspension team is a piercer. We have an EMT. We actually have a couple EMTs on our crew also. We all have our bloodborne pathogen classes, our first aid CPR that we have to update yearly. Every person on there has a lot of training, so they know how to they know how to throw the hooks, they know how, to stop bleeding, they know, things always happen, they know how to deal with people passing out or, whatnot. Everything we use has been pre-sterilized, and everything is the same as what we would do in our our tattoo and piercing shops.
I know that suspension had been in American Indians, am I right? Is there a spirituality or something, a background that you relate to, or that the band relates to in this way?
Well, in the past, there's been many cultures that have done suspensions. They've done scarification as far as cutting and branding and things like that, and piercings. It's all throughout history in a lot of different cultures. Um, as far as only flesh is associated with the culture behind it, to be honest, not really that much at all.
Only flesh. Where did that come from?
The name, basically, like I said, I was in a band before Only Flesh called The Azoic. And the last album that I was on, because they were still a band after I left, and they came out with a couple albums after I had left. The last album that I was on, one of the songs on it, because I didn't write any of the music for Azoic except for one song. And it was called Only Flesh, and it was, that was the first song that I'd wrote for them, and the only song. And so I thought when I started with the band, there was basically two concepts that came up with the name. One was that song. Two, the kind of the theory, or the kind of the notion of what our band kind of is about is we kind of live in the now. We're not worried about tomorrow. We're not necessarily worried about politics or religion or anything else. So Only Flesh kind of comes from the aspect that we're not a spiritual group. We don't do the things we do for spiritual reasons. We're doing it for pretty much, for entertainment, for having a good time, for, we live for the moment.
I guess I'd like to talk a little bit have you talk about the creative process. So let's go first with the lyrics.
To push me from the ledge of the ledge. I want you to scrape my brains off the wall. I want you to shove the pills down my throat. Make me chow.
Those lyrics are from the song Faded. It is a self-destructive song that revolves around a relationship, because it's all the lyrics are directed towards a person. So it's embracing death, but in a romantic kind of setting, if there is such a thing. It's all the lyrics are saying that I don't want to kill myself, I want you to kill me. So it's basically finding comfort in knowing that someone cares about you enough to blow your head off.
I guess what I'd like to now focus on, backstage, private room, etc. What really happens, if you could explain what's going on there.
A lot of times in the back room, we'll do photo shoots with the Crucifixons. After a show, I need kind of like a little bit of room to just relax, because I put out like I put a lot of energy into our shows. A lot of times when we are doing suspensions and things like that, I need some time to just kind of calm down, to rest, and more likely to drink excessively. And that way I can bring back, potential crucifixes to try them out.
Ideas for the Outland show. What's going on with this? Concept, problems?
When we did the Outland show, we originally were going to do a thing that we had dubbed the Tarzan, where I start from one end of the room and I would work my way to the stage. How I would do this was I would be suspended and I would be swinging back and forth from my hooks, and about every 4 to 5 feet there would be another rope hanging from the ceiling. I would grab that rope, hook it onto my rig, cut the old rope, and swing to the next one. That was the original plan, and we are still doing it for a show, but we ran into some problems, basically being you have a lack of area, or your arms aren't as movable as what they are normally when you're hanging from hooks from your back. Go figure. So it was too hard to grab and click on behind myself. So what we came up with was a lot more extreme than the original trick, which basically what we had was we had a pulley over the stage, and we had our crew pulling from beside the stage. The rope went up to the rafters, and same thing, every 4 to 5 feet there was a carabiner that the rope went through. The carabiners were attached to the rafters by a short little rope. What they would do was I would be pulled up on the opposite side of the room, and the rope would be going through all these carabiners back down to the crew. So once they pulled me up to the first carabiner, I would reach up and cut the rope that connected the carabiner to the ceiling, which would put me in a free fall, swinging down to where the next carabiner, and then they would pull me up again. I would cut, swing down. So I'd be like, I don't know, 20 feet up, and I'd be cutting myself from that rope and basically falling about 6 feet, something like that, and swinging under the next one and doing that. And it was about 4 to 6, I'd say, cuts before I made it to the stage. It was the first time it had ever been done or attempted by a suspension team, and it went very smoothly, and we're actually going to do it at a larger establishment